back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, a place where I interview tech leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, futurists, technologists, thought leaders, and even the occasional celebrity about how they are leveraging technology to transform their business. Now, I am always scanning tech headlines for projects that are leveraging emerging technologies, but also securing mainstream adoption. And I then try to invite them on here to see if we can further demystify that technology and make it more palatable to people outside of blockchain and Twitter communities. So a company called Hedera set off my tech spidey sensors when I read that it was standing out from competing networks with its governing council, which includes the likes of Google, IBM, Standard Bank, Shinhan Bank, and the London School of Economics and Political Science. And when I dug a little bit deeper, I then read that it was mentioned in a University College London research report on the energy consumption of different distributed ledgers. And from there, I immediately thought, what benefits are these type of governance models bringing? And do these governing council members, which are, let's face it, pretty big names, are they and how are they utilising Hedera's technology? In what ways are they doing this? And when I went further down that rabbit hole, I discovered that Hedera is also a member of the World Economic Forum. And while the majority of their presence at Davos this year was outside the convention centre at the promenade, they did have their president and chair Brett McDowell speaking and attending the main sessions. So all of that was enough for me to invite them on the podcast today. A quick few questions for you all. Does online privacy or lack of it concern you? And do you ever feel like your online privacy has been invaded? Well, after 2,300 podcast interviews on here, there are so many areas that I'm now aware of, such as the fact that my internet service provider literally knows everything that I do online. And incognito mode in a web browser doesn't offer as much protection as many think. But think about this. Would you find the prospect of handing over your laptop or phone to a complete stranger, or even a friend for that matter, to look at your browsing history to be the stuff of nightmares? And yet, someone out there knows absolutely everything you do online, every click, whether you like it or not. So if you want to stop internet service providers from always looking over your shoulder and profiting from your data, you need something like Private Internet Access, which is the world's most transparent VPN provider. They have over 30 million downloads. PIA has servers in 84 countries and in all 50 states. And it's the perfect software for staying private online because it hides your IP address and encrypts your internet connection. And Private Internet Access is really easy to use. There are apps available for all operating systems, and one subscription can protect up to 10 devices at once. And I'll be honest, as a daily tech podcaster, keeping my life private is very important to me. And after thousands of interviews talking about security issues on here, I'm more determined than ever to keep snoopers out of my digital life. So if you want to enjoy all the benefits of Private Internet Access, now's a great time to subscribe. Simply head to piavpn.com/techtalksdaily and get an 83% discount. Seriously, 83%, which works out at just $2.03 a month. And you also get 4 months completely free. But to activate this offer, you must go to piavpn.com/techtalksdaily for a truly private digital life. One last time, piavpn.com/techtalksdaily. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Dallas, Texas, where Leemon Baird, co-CEO of Swirls Labs and co-founder of Hedera and inventor of Hashgraph, will talk about all this and much more. So, a massive warm welcome to the show. So, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and for anyone listening and hearing about Hedera for the very first time, exactly what it is?
Sure. So, I'm Leemon Baird. Hi, it is good to meet everyone, if I'm meeting you for the first time. And I created the Hashgraph algorithm. I'm a co-founder of Hedera and a co-CEO of Swirls Labs. So, I do things in the Hedera ecosystem. And it's a lot of exciting things going on, especially right now. And so we can talk about that, but that's what I do.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about Hedera and what makes it different from other distributed ledgers out there?
Oh, yeah. So Hedera has been going for a while now, and it is extremely secure and fast and well governed. And I think those really are different from other ledgers in a lot of ways. The security, it's ABFT, which among other things means that you can't shut down the network by shutting down one computer. Other ledgers that use a leader, you just take turns attacking the leader and it shuts down the entire network by shutting down one computer at a time. With us, it's ABFT, which guarantees that won't happen. Asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant. It just means you're guaranteed that's not going to happen. It's also well governed. We have a governing council of 28 huge names, top 10 universities in the world, Fortune 100 companies in countries around the world, different continents, different jurisdictions, and they keep tabs on each other. They're checks and balances on each other. They each have a reputation to uphold, and everything is transparent. They do something evil, everyone will know it. It will hurt their reputation. And so they have a strong incentive to not do evil things, and they have checks and balances on each other. And so this is very transparent governance. Most ledgers, you just have a handful of maybe developers that kind of gain power over time. You don't really know what's going on, who's in charge and how they're in charge. Or you have at stake and you have just a handful of stakers controlling all the stake. Here, the governance is done in a really transparent, decentralized way. 28 very independent people controlling it. And you know who they are and they publish their minutes. So I would say that is a real advantage. It is also the greenest one, lowest energy usage. So in a lot of ways, Hedera is an unusual ledger. And right now, I think it's having the second most transactions per second. It goes back and forth between second and first, very much used right now.
And one of the things that for me makes Hedera stand out from competing networks is this governing council, because it includes the likes of some pretty big names such as Google, IBM, Standard Bank, the London School of Economics and Political Science, and there's so many others as well. But I'm curious, what benefits are there to this type of governance model?
The benefits are you have transparency, you know who is governing, and you see the minutes of the meetings where they discuss how they're governing when they're making the decisions. And each of them is big enough that they care about their reputation. If they do anything evil, it will be visible. It will be transparent, and that will hurt their reputation. And they are diverse. We have several of the top 10 universities in the world. We have top companies. You mentioned some of them, but the biggest telecom in Europe and one of the biggest financial institutions in Japan and the oldest bank in South Korea and the biggest bank in Africa. We have people that do payments. We have people that do legal, one of the largest legal firms in the world. We have all these different things. You have Google that does a whole bunch of different things. All of these different council members, they have expertise in a wide range of areas. You mentioned London School of Economics. So we have that, and then University College of London and ITT have these technical abilities, and so we have lots of different insight coming from different directions, and they together are governing in a way that we have set up the incentives because they care about their reputations to make them want to do the right thing and to keep tabs on each other, and they even have term limits. So this is very different from where it's just whoever kind of evolves to have power over time, whatever the biggest developers are, or someone who has a reputation in having power. This is very clearly laid out, and we even have term limits, so it has to roll over. This is the right way to do governance.
And as I said a moment ago, there are some pretty big names in there. So I'm curious, do your governing council members utilize Hedera's technology themselves? And I appreciate you probably can't share too much, but is there any that you can share on how that they're utilizing it?
Absolutely. So we have a number of different things. There was this fascinating POC that was done between two of the banks. I said Shinhan is the oldest in South Korea and Standard is the biggest in Africa, and they were doing it for remittances. If you work in South Korea, you earn Korean won. You can turn that into a stable coin. You can send it directly to your friends or your family back in South Africa, have it turned into a South African rand. The whole process is extremely fast, very easy, and very cheap. So that's something that two of the council members did. Another one is one of the largest legal firms in the world, DLA Piper, and they have the TOCO project, and they are tokenizing things of real value in the real world, not just pictures, but actual things of value. So you have fine art and real estate and wine and anything of value in the real world, they tokenize it, and it's a large legal firm, so they can make sure that you're compliant, that you're not going to get in trouble. And so this is the next step. When you hear NFTs, maybe you think of silly pictures, which is great. That's fun. But they're using NFTs for real things that really change the world. And then you have Avery Dennison. You think of them as doing paper and labels. labels including RFID tags and barcodes. They actually use this for tracking objects through a supply chain and as they're sold. And they have billions of objects being tracked, and they are now recording many of them through the Atma project on Hedera. We have hundreds of transactions every second coming from that. And I can tell you more about that. They're using the Hedera consensus service. And it's like a notary public that has a consensus of the entire network saying this is the exact moment that this information was recorded. And we have a cryptographic guarantee that it came from the ledger. And we have a cryptographic guarantee that the whole world sees the same thing. You can't have two sets of books and you show some people one of the books and you show other people the other ones and you're cooking the books. That kind of fraud becomes impossible. The ledger itself rules out that kind of fraud. And so we've got hundreds of transactions a second right now just from that. And we have a lot more coming.
And one of the things I love doing on this podcast is demystifying this technology, putting it in a language that everyone can understand to increase adoption. And one of the things that put you on my radar was the fact that you do have these big name partnerships, and you've got the council, and we're hearing real world stories of adoption and real world examples there. And Hedera was also recently mentioned in University College London's research report on energy consumption of different distributed ledgers. Again, another big topic right now. So can you tell me a little bit more about that report and some of the key findings from it?
Yes. So CO2 footprint is a big deal right now. There are a lot of people talking about this. There's a great deal of interest in it. UCL has done now 2 different reports, and they have an updated one now that's just very recently come out, where they've looked at a large number of ledgers and even credit cards with Visa. And they've said, if you do a transaction, what is the total amount of electricity that got used on your behalf to do that transaction? What is your carbon footprint of doing one transaction? And so if you look at proof of work, like Bitcoin, it uses more electricity than Ireland. It uses more electricity than Argentina. It's a lot of electricity. It's a billion times worse, almost a billion times worse than Hedera, which isn't surprising because it's proof of work. The way you get security is by burning electricity. The way we get security is math. Math has less of a carbon footprint. There's no carbon footprint for equations. So we are very good. In fact, they had this long list of people, and we ended up being the number one blockchain. We have lower energy usage than anyone else in kilowatt hours per transaction. The second best was almost 20 times worse than us. So you have more than an order of magnitude there, and almost a billion times worse to Bitcoin. Everybody else goes in between. You could even talk about Visa credit cards are 1,000 times worse. If you use your credit card once, you're putting 1,000 times as much CO2 into the atmosphere, or at least you're using 1,000 times as much electricity than if you did a transaction through Hedera. Now you could say, well, wait a second, not all electricity is bad electricity, but electricity is fungible. So even if you're using green electricity, the fact that you're using it up means someone else isn't using the electricity and they're going to go burn some coal. That's the way electricity works. So the greenest form of electricity is negawatts. It's the electricity you don't use. That's the greenest form of electricity. So we are the greenest ledger in that sense. In addition, we buy carbon credits so that we are carbon neutral, and we buy extra so we're carbon negative. So we also have that. So this is something that is just of extreme interest right now. Everybody is talking about it. And these reports are very interesting.
And before you came on the podcast, I was doing a little research on you guys and checking out your social feeds, the kind of thing that you're up to at the moment. And I quickly noticed that Hedera appeared to have quite a significant presence at the World Economic Forum in Davos this year. So I've got to ask, what were the key topics on that global agenda, and especially around what Hedera aims to address this year?
Yeah, Davos was very interesting. We've been, I don't know, this has been our third one coming to. I went to one of them in China. I didn't go to this one, but we had a bunch of our guys there. And just for those who don't understand, Davos is where the World Economic Forum meets, and you have to be a billionaire or a president to go to that. But at the same time, in the city, people from all over the world converge there and talk to each other. And so we were part of that part. We weren't the billionaire and the president, but we were part of the other part. But what we heard was what the main themes were. So the main themes were that we have some serious challenges right now. The economy has serious problems. They're talking about the green things and carbon emissions and all of those things, ecology. And they said one interesting thing is that there was a theme in that people are losing trust. Trust in governments, trust in companies, trust in systems, trust in banks, trust even in universities. There is a severe lack of trust. Now, one might say, well, that's caused by the lack of trustworthiness. Maybe that had something to do with the lack of trust. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the solution is if people can start doing things on ledgers where it is transparent, where everyone sees what's happening in real time, and you cannot lie and tell different people different things. Now, of course, some lies you can do, but you make it easier to catch the lies, and you make it impossible to be two-faced. You can only have one lying face. You can't have two. And you can then have other people checking it, and you can automate some of the checks. So even the one lies become more difficult. And you have things being very fast and very transparent. This is a big part of regaining trust, is using things like ledgers where the trust comes from the mathematics itself. This is important. And so this was a major theme at the conference. Another major theme was the whole world has some interesting economic problems going on right now. They may get worse before they get better. And there was talk about how can we improve some of these things. And some of these things are structural things that, are going to be hard to fix. But a lot of these things are if we can increase efficiency, if we can make things easier and faster and lower cost, and doing things through ledgers inherently are faster and easier and lower cost. And again, if you're tokenizing all of the widgets flowing through your supply line, it allows you to track things in ways that then you can be taking out micro loans, using those as collateral in real time without a human involved, just having computers set up to do it. There's all sorts of ways of being very efficient. Instead of sending your loved ones back in South Africa, the money you earned in your South Korean job, instead of sending it with a wire that could take days, it might cost you $30. By the way, they're often charged in dollars, even though it's going from two non-dollar countries. It's crazy. Instead of doing all that, you do it with the stable coins, and then it transfers 1/10 of a cent on Hedera. 1/10 of a cent. It is 1/1000th of a US dollar to send a token. Even $1 million token will cost you $1,000th of a dollar to send. So these are some of the themes that we saw coming out of Davos this year. And I was really encouraged by just how much excitement there seemed to be about Hedera. There really seemed to be a buzz because we're focused on the very things that were being discussed.
I love that. Wow. And when it comes to things like distributed ledger technology and crypto, there are so many different innovations that people believe will be the mainstream adoption in the future. And for quite a while now, many have argued that For quite a while now, you have argued that one of the most critical issues to address in order to achieve distributed ledger technology adoption is decentralized recovery, or DREC. So for anyone listening, hearing about that phrase for the first time, can you tell me more about exactly what DREC is and why it's so important?
We've got to have DREC. Okay, So DREC is not a ledger. It is a way of storing your keys. You give it to your friends, and when you lose your key, they can give it back to you. That's kind of the idea of DREC. Everybody talks about different things about that. But DREC is different from social recovery, from multi-sig. It is a broader thing. And we are working very hard on standards on this that we will work with other ledgers. This is not a Hedera thing. This is a universal thing. The entire blockchain industry has a severe problem. If you want your grandmother to start using tokens and start using cryptocurrency, and you tell her, here's 24 words, and if you forget them, all of your money is gone. No court in the world can recover it for you. That's bad.
Yeah.
Or if you tell her, you have this key on your computer, but if anybody ever hacks into your computer, they will steal everything you own and you can never get it back ever. That's bad. Mm-hmm. This is really bad. If you lose your key or if it is stolen, that's really bad. And of course, there are all sorts of things that people are talking about, passkeys, which would be even better than passwords. But all those things involve a secret. And you could say, well, I have a special chip in my phone that stores the secret. Great. But what if you lose your phone? What if your phone is destroyed? You have to have a recovery system. So you could say, I'll go to a custodial service that will just do custody. They'll just hold everything for me, and hopefully things won't get stolen and they can be insured. Well, you can do that, but now we're going back to a centralized solution. And there are severe trust problems here. And I think recent history in our industry says maybe you don't trust a big exchange, a big stable coin, lots of things. Maybe you really want it to be decentralized. By the way, all of the really big things that have happened in the last year that are bad in our industry have been where something that was decentralized was actually centralized. Those have been the problems. The actual decentralized things haven't been having such problems in the last year. Anyway, the solution is decentralized recovery. And what you need to do is you have your key on your phone, or you have your pass key, or you have your password, or whatever's on your phone, whatever secrets you have are on your phone or on grandma's phone. And then you just connect with other people to be your helper. And you can connect with your friends. You can connect with your attorney. You can connect with your banker. There could be companies that do this as a service for you, but you connect with other people and you do it where you're seeing them face to face. Maybe for recovery, you would allow video, but you would have a long video talk with them because there are deep fakes out there now. And there's all sorts of Dolly 2 kinds of things. Maybe you do it in person and that you connect to each one. Your phone connects to their phone. Now, here's what's important. If you want to recover, you have to go to a majority of them. You have to go to more than half of them and have them help you. And you have to convince them that you are you in a really good way. You go talk to your friend and have a conversation, and they see you and they know it's not someone faking it. You go to a majority of them and they help you. If you do it at your bank or your lawyer or whatever, I'd say the same thing. You need to have strong things in place to make sure that you are really you. Just having your driver's license shouldn't be good enough because someone can fake that. Once they've done it, then it just magically, their phone sends your phone behind the scenes, everything that's needed to recover it. Now, how did I send my keys to all my friends? I didn't. You use cryptographic means. So you're doing standard secret sharing, Shamir polynomials, all that stuff is just normal stuff in the crypto world. It's not in the cryptography world. It's not anything innovative, but you are taking your secret and splitting it so that if you get half of your helpers to help, you get it back. But if even one person is missing, an attacker gets zero information whatsoever. They cannot get anything useful about your secret. Then here's the key for DREC. Every day, behind the scenes, invisibly, your phone is asking their phone, do you still have that? Here, let me do a challenge and you can prove to me that you still have it. I want to make sure you're still able. This is so important. Today, you can do a multi-sig and say, okay, 3 of my 5 friends have to sign this. But then over the years, you know what's going to happen. One of your friends is going to lose their key and they're not going to realize it. And then another friend's going to lose their key. And then a third friend's going to lose their key. And at that moment, you are out of luck. If you ever lose your phone, you lose everything in your life and you can never get it back. You've got to have the daily checks behind the scenes. And when you add a new friend, it needs to invisibly, behind the scenes, go do essentially a rekeying. It's a resharing of a secret share. And so if you had 10 people, when you add the 11th, what it does is it breaks your key now into 11 pieces. All the people get one of those 11 pieces, and the old 10 people erase their piece if they're honest. And so as long as most of them are honest, they all get erased. Enough of them get erased. So behind the scenes, we have a protocol for how you check up on other phones to make sure they still have your secret, and how you recover the secret when you have recovered it, and how you connect in the first place and add people as your helpers. And it's bidirectional. If I'm your helper, you're my helper. And yeah, there'll be a menu where I could say, I don't like you, but by default, if I'm your helper, you're my helper. And then how do you do this when you add somebody or if you lose somebody? If you lose somebody, it'll keep trying to reach them. If it cannot reach them, it'll eventually tell you, hey, so-and-so is gone. You better go talk to them. And if after a week you still haven't talked to them, it removes them. And so now everybody else reshares, and now you only have 9 shares among the 9 people because the 10th person has left. That is so important. Otherwise, you're gradually going to lose your key and not know it. Okay, so that is DREC. It has nothing to do with the Hedera ledger. It has everything to do with all of the ledgers in the industry. And we want to be working with other people. We're talking with people. We want to have RFCs, actually have actual internet standards for these 4 communication protocols. We have a demo that we have built, and we're in the process of fine-tuning it, and then we'll release it to the world. We will have libraries that we're writing that we're going to release for free to the world. We will have the standards, and we will be encouraging wallets to incorporate it, games to incorporate it, even things like an online game. If you have an NFT for your assets, you might actually build up quite a few assets over your lifetime. Do you want to lose it? Do you want to worry about passwords and having to write down key phrases and keep them in a bank vault? It's just assets in a game. You want DREC built in. So this is DREC. I think it's really the future of this industry, and we all need to be working on it.
Wow, my mind's buzzing now. I've got so many questions around how DREC solutions should be implemented, different approaches that you might be seeing being taken to innovate in that area. And and what you personally think the solution should be. Is there anything you can share around those things? I appreciate I've just thrown 3 questions for the price of one at you, but is there anything you can expand on there?
I think the real solution is to have all 4 of those components I said, including the checking up every night where you say, do you still have that share that you've been holding for me? That is absolutely important. For the cryptography part of it, you do things like the Shamir secret sharing. This is, 40-year-old, 50-year-old technology. That's all very clear. It is also good, though. I didn't even talk about decentralized custody. Once you have the DREC, you should also be able to have the equivalent of a cold wallet. How would you do that? What you do is you have an account. The key is shared among all your helpers, and you don't have your key. Nobody can get the key off your phone if there is no key on your phone. And you might not want to do that. You might want to just keep it in a secure enclave on your phone or something. But for ultimate security, you would do cold storage where you can't spend your money. But if you talk to each of your, if you create a transaction saying, I want to move some of my NFTs or cryptocurrency from this account to this account, or I want to give it to someone or whatever, you make that transaction. You then go to each of your helpers and you say, please help sign this. And as soon as you've reached a majority of your helpers, half of your helpers, then they can jointly create a signature on it. None of them knows your key. It's really kind of cool. There's a cryptographic way to do this, but you can do it. It's sort of a multi-party computation, or it's more like a threshold signature. We can do this, and we're writing the code, and we're giving it away for free, open source, so that you can actually have them together sign this, basically using a key that they don't know, and you don't know, and no one in the world knows, and no one in the world will ever know. And that is the equivalent of cold storage. That is custody, but it's decentralized custody. There is no central person holding your money. No central person can steal it. No central person can hold it hostage.
Love it, man. And looking at the wider crypto and blockchain market over the last few months, there has been a lot of upheaval. We all know what we're talking about, the dreaded crypto winter. But things do appear to be picking up again at the moment, ironically. But where does Hedera's focus lie during challenging times like this? Are you almost oblivious to it from all the crypto bros and what they're going through and what you're seeing? Are you more focused on just delivering on your roadmap and stuff? Or how are you dealing with the events of the last year or so?
Yeah, well, I have great sympathy for people who are hurt by crypto winter or hurt by the various frauds that we've been seeing. I have great sympathy for that. Those things don't affect us directly, though. We are hiring engineers as fast as we can right now. We are building. We are focused on the goal of having a 100-year project that is the utility for the entire planet. It becomes the trust layer of the internet. This is what we are doing. And so when bad things happen, that's unfortunate, but don't get distracted. Focus on working on building something of value. Similarly, when really good things happen, hey, that's wonderful, but don't get distracted. Focus on building something real of real value. And so this is our focus, is to do the right thing, build things that really make the world better in a fundamental way. And don't get distracted by good news and bad news. And there is good news and bad news all the time. Lately, we've seen really bad news and really good news. Yeah, maybe less of the good news, really bad news. And I have true sympathy for those who are hurt. But we are, in a sense, ignoring it. We are pushing ahead and focused on the goal. And as an industry, I would encourage all the ledgers, all the people to do the same thing. Do everything you can to prevent bad things from happening again. Do everything you can to weather the crypto winter and to prepare for the end of the crypto winter. But keep your eyes on the goal. Work on that.
As a daily tech business podcast, one of the things that put you on my radar was this significant focus for Hedera on fostering enterprise adoption. I'm always talking almost daily on here about the need to demystify and increase adoption. So what steps do you think are necessary to make distributed ledger technology accessible to mainstream enterprises? And do you think the value proposition of DLT has already started to click with traditional industries? Are you seeing anything there?
We are. This is cool. Even in the middle of a crypto winter, we're seeing people are very interested now in moving on to ledgers, moving on to Hedera. And the things that you absolutely have to have for an enterprise are the same things you really would like to have for an individual. If you're buying an NFT in a game and you're just doing this for fun, you don't want someone to steal it. You want it to have good governance. You want it to trust it. You want it to stick around for a while. You want it to be cheap and fast. All those same things. But for enterprises, they are critical. Even things like being able to predict the cost of the transactions. We have prices denominated in dollars. You pay in H bars, and the value of the H bar goes up and down. So the number of H bars you're paying goes up and down, but the price in dollars is fixed. So you can predict what your costs are going to be next quarter for your business. Turns out businesses actually care about that sort of thing. They like to actually know they'll have the money to pay the bills. I don't know. They're funny that way. So it's nice to be predictable. They also need extreme speed. 10,000 TPS is important. And I told you this kind of a notary service where we put things in order, we put timestamps on them, then we notarize them as the network as a whole, and then everyone can see it. This is the Hedera consensus service. This is an incredibly important kind of transaction for a ledger to do. And we now have hundreds of TPS transactions per second happening of that from a business. And we have a number of businesses in the pipeline that look like they're going to be building very big things on us. And this is the reason you need to have that speed. And of course, not just the speed, but the low price. A thousandth of a cent to move a dollar to move a token, or 10,000th of a dollar to move crypto. That's really nice. That's a good thing. Or move H bars or do a HCS transaction. So this is good that we have the really cheap, very fast, also very secure. People do care about this. You could say, well, who cares if a leader-based ledger, you DDoS it, the whole ledger shuts down for a few hours, and then when the DDoS stops, it comes back up. That's what leader-based does. Can you live with your ledger going down for a few hours? Maybe if it's a game. But if you're building your company on a ledger and it goes down for a few hours, that's critically bad. This is a really, really bad thing. This is the kind of thing that, small businesses can go bankrupt over some of these things. Probably you wouldn't go bankrupt over that happening once, but it's an enormously bad thing. And big companies can lose millions of dollars when that happens. So it's important that you have actual security, ABFT. You need to have that asynchronous part, not just BFT. You need the asynchronous part, which is the not leader-based. You can't do follow the leader. And true finality. We have true finality in a few seconds. It's kind of fun. Only, like 5 seconds, which is great. And it's true finality. You have 100% guarantee when you buy something. If it goes through 5 seconds later, you know it, and they can afford to give it to you, and they know they're not going to lose the payment for it. Absolutely guaranteed finality. We actually have been playing with different algorithms to make the gossip faster. And we did one recently that actually made it faster. It was a couple of seconds instead of 5 seconds. We got a lot faster. We tried that for a little bit, and we didn't like some aspects of it. So we turned that off. And in a few months, we'll come back, we'll turn it on again and try something else. So I think we might even get faster. Right now, we're throttled down to 10,000 TPS, but when need comes, we'll raise that up and do it even faster. And when it's too fast for a single computer to even do, it just violates how fast computers run, then we'll go to sharding. And we can do that. And we'll use state proofs, which are a big deal to do that. State proofs are when you can cryptographically prove to somebody something that the ledger did. It's like an oracle with no validators in the middle, just the ledger itself. Really powerful. So all of those things, the industry is very focused on those things. Tell you another thing, with all the frauds we're seeing, and in the recent fraud, what we have heard now is they didn't cook the books. They didn't have any books. Okay. This is not a good thing.
Yeah.
An enterprise, just like small people, small investors or startups or individuals, everybody cares about this. You need transparency. You need the adults in the room running the thing. You need very decentralized governance. 28 very different organizations, and you know who they are. And each organization within itself, has some ways the decisions are made. You need this kind of decentralized governance, trustworthy governance, transparent governance, critically important. And then I'll tell you, you said, what are enterprises interested in? There are a lot of enterprises that are very interested in being green. Low energy usage, low carbon footprint, carbon neutral, carbon negative. This is actually widespread interest. And at the WEF, at this Davos, this was a big topic, was carbon footprints. And so we find people are very interested in that. So we are finding that, yes, there are a lot of companies very interested in this. They are rolling things out. You see this latest bump in our TPS. There'll be more. We like that. And they are interested in it. And even in the middle of crypto winter, that doesn't faze them. Even with these frauds that we're seeing out there, that doesn't faze them. That just makes them more likely to come to Hedera. That's what we're seeing.
And there is enough doom and gloom out there from crypto and the fraud and the scams and all the wild, wild west, all that stuff. But in a bid to restore the balance in the universe a little, I will ask you to share a few inspiring things and things we can look forward to. So if I was to ask you to look within the world of DLT and crypto, What areas do you see the most room for growth and innovation this year? And also, is there anything you're particularly excited about as well in the future?
Yes. So I will tell you about this year, but before I do that, what is the long-term end going to be? Is this a fad that will fizzle out? And I still see articles saying, oh, no, that stuff's a fad. It's going to fizzle out. No, it's like the internet. It is going to play a role in every area of society and economy and education and government and everything. Not that everything will be done in the ledger, but ledgers will be a part of everything that we do as a society, as a planet. Just like the internet. Not everything is done on the internet, but the internet plays a role in every little part of society and the economy and government and education and technology, everything. We're going to see the same thing. Why? Because you've got to have trust. You have to be able to know that your things aren't going to be stolen, that you have guarantees that I can interact with someone that I don't trust and that they can't rip me off. And the historical way we say is that if I don't trust you, I get a trusted third party to come along, but then we have to trust the trusted third party. It makes it slow. It makes it expensive. It makes it inefficient. It makes it non-transparent, and it makes it dangerous because you have to trust the third party. And what we are talking about is just having math be the third party. The ledger is the third party. And so then you can interact with people you don't trust and trust the transaction will happen. This is what we're talking about. And it will make things faster. It will make them cheaper, and it will make them more trustworthy. And right now, as I said, the world is suffering from a lack of trust. So this is where we are headed. And we are absolutely on this path. We've been watching the steps be taken along this path. The entire world will be built on ledgers for at least part of what they do. So a ledger is like an extra secure database. It can be multi-party database. And if you don't need that, you'll just use ordinary databases. They won't go away. But everybody will be using this for at least a little bit of what they're doing. And in games and entertainment, everything. In the next year, what are we going to see? We are seeing, I think, a shift of tokens from silly pictures to actual real-world usage. This is important. I think that we are going to see finance transforming from the DeFi, where it's just people in our community trading with people in our community and loaning and borrowing and gambling with people in our community, which, doesn't really affect the greater world, but it's a warm-up for turning into DeFi that is actually finance for the real world. I think we're going to see this proof of action, like these notaries, being able to send things through something like HCS and eternally, immutably record this forever in a way that the entire planet can see. And everyone knows you're not trying to say two different things to two different groups of people. You have to have a consistent story, and you have cryptographic timestamps that prove that, like a notary public signed off on it. But you can do it, 10,000 per second, and you can do it very, very cheap for each one. This is important, and we're going to see this growing. And so over the next year, we see companies in the pipeline. We see little startups in the pipeline. You have people like the HBAR Foundation giving grants. If you're building a startup on Hedera, you see people like the Hashgraph Association giving grants if you're a startup on Hedera. And over the next year, we see more and more of these little startups really becoming big. And we'll see more and more of the giant enterprises adopting and using these things for real things. Big enterprises move very slowly. I love this Atma thing we're seeing right now. Oh, it was in the works for a really long time. Big companies move at the speed of big companies. But when they move, it has huge impacts on the world. And so we have another line of very slow elephants moving forward that will be on the ledger. And they're slow, but when they get here, it changes the world. And I really think we're heading to a world where all of this is used in real life and makes a difference.
And that will be music to the ears of so many people listening. Maybe they've spent too long doom scrolling on their phone, read too many bad headlines, but stories like that and your passion for this industry really shines through. So for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about anything we talked about today, maybe even immerse themselves in your community, what's the best starting point for everything Hedera?
Well, you can go to hedera.com and hedera.com, and it has links to lots of things. There are online discussions going on in Discord and Twitter and other places. There's a YouTube channel for Hedera with lots of videos. Perhaps yours will be there. I would love that. Oh, I don't know. Just there's many different ways to get involved. If you want to talk to the two organizations I said, they can give you grants. Hashgraph Association is going to be involved in education and even certification. There are just lots of ways to get involved right now. There's hackathons, huge numbers of hackathons. I think 50 in the last year, where there was a Hedera project. I mean, there was a Hedera track. You could do your project in the hackathon on Hedera. And so get involved in that. Lots of ways to get involved.
Awesome. Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easy. We covered so much there in a short amount of time. And I, for one, feel so much more positive about the industry just having spoken with you today. And I hope everyone listening found it as valuable as I did. But just a big thank you for sparing your time. I know it's been a crazy couple of weeks. So thank you for sparing the time to sit down and talk with me today.
Oh, thank you. It's been wonderful to talk with you. Thanks.
I know there's going to be many crypto bros wanting more technical questions from episodes like this, but this is not a crypto podcast, but a business tech podcast. It's always my aim to demystify this technology in a way of increasing partnerships and adoption in this space, because that's how I see the space succeeding and thriving. But I know you all have much more experience on that side of things than I do. So if you have anything around that topic that you'd like to add, simply email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, @NeilC.Hughes. And if you'd like to talk at length about anything that we discussed today, I'll invite you on the podcast to join me and we can get your opinions, your insights and experiences on here too. But that's it today. So I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Leemon as much as I did. But a big thank you for listening today, and until next time, don't be a stranger.